Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live webinar event as part of Post 16 Careers Week. Tonight's event is all about studying T-levels, apprenticeships, BTECs and other vocational qualifications if you're thinking about heading off to college in September 2025 or the following year. So the event is aimed predominantly at Year 10 and 11 students thinking about their next steps after GCSEs, and obviously parents and carers too. So welcome to everybody who's joining us on a rather damp and drizzly Wednesday evening. I'm sure you've all had a busy schedule today with clubs and dinner and after school activities. So you're very, very welcome to join us here tonight. Now, obviously, we're a Teams live event, so some people are still just busy clicking on those links and doing that registration form or downloading Teams on their mobile and iPad devices, their tablets. So we're just going to have a quick bit of housekeeping for the first few minutes or so, where I explain a little bit about the pro forma for this evening's event, whilst other people are still joining the call. So the first thing for me to say is my name is Caroline Patton and I'm going to be your host for this evening. As I mentioned right at the start, tonight's event is part of a suite of resources produced by Stockport Council as part of an event called Post 16 Careers Week that is delivered to all years 10 to 13 students across the Stockport Borough to help guide them in their decision making after secondary school and college. In addition to the live events that are happening last night, tonight and tomorrow night, there's also a whole host of information available via the Stockport Jobs Match website. If you're not familiar with that, it is stockport-jobsmatch.co.uk and it includes a wealth of resources to help you as students, parents and carers in some of those conversations that you might want to start having at home at the moment about next step pathways. So it explains the differences between T-levels and how they're assessed and how they compare to A-levels and other level 3 qualifications. It talks about apprenticeships and how to apply for them, provides you with kind of sample application forms for college and model CVs, etc. It's got career guides on there, day in the life videos and a whole host of tools for you to take advantage of at this point in time. Now, in terms of this evening's event, what we've done is we've brought together a couple of different expert panellists from the vocational colleges within Stockport and the Greater Manchester area. So we're presuming that for a lot of you, you may have already been along to an open event at one of these places, or you plan to do so very soon. There are still a couple with open events that have dates remaining. And you may be thinking, you may be getting to that point in time where you're starting to think about applications and you want to know a little bit more about it. So I'm going to ask the presenters to just introduce themselves briefly in a second, but roughly speaking tonight we're going to look a little bit more in detail at the differences between all of those different vocational qualifications, so what they actually mean, what you can study and what the differences between them are, including things like entry requirements and whatnot, and how to choose between them. We're going to look a little bit at how to select your college and what that process looked like, as well as crucially what's involved in applications, what do you need to put on that application form to make it stand out, how decisions are made, how many courses to apply for, how many colleges to apply to, when you can expect to receive an offer or when you're likely to hear back. We're going to look at the apprenticeship process and how you might apply for apprenticeships and what that involves, what the employer interview looks like and that decision-making process. And then we're going to come on to your questions. So somewhere on your screen, whether you're on a mobile or a laptop, desktop or tablet device, you will have a Q&A button. If at any point during the course of tonight's event you would like to ask a question, you can do so anonymously if you wish, but just pop that in that Q&A box and send that across to us. I will be monitoring that Q&A box and putting your questions to our experts as the evening goes on. Now, last night in kind of the last 10 minutes or so, we had about 30 questions all come through at once. So I'd encourage you, if you've got a burning question that you really want to know, to put it to our experts as soon as possible so that we can make sure that you do get a response. So without further ado, I'm going to come on to the panellists now, and I'm just going to go around my screen and ask them to introduce themselves, to say who they are, their role title, and where they've come from tonight. And then we'll start with the questions for our panellists. So over to you first, Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Nitrogen. I'm Head of Studies for Health and Early Years over at the Trafford and Stockport College group, so it's lovely to see you all tonight.
Thanks, Lisa. Robbie?
Hi everyone, my name's Robbie and I work for the Manchester College as an outreach coordinator.
Great, thank you. Matthew?
Hi everyone, my name's Matthew, so I work for the Growth Company. We're based in Manchester, but we do cover all of GM and other areas. I work on the education and skills team. I'm a resource. I'm generally helping people that are looking for an apprenticeship. We do have other courses available for people that when they're finishing sort of school or maybe a little bit older as well. Obviously, when you come back to my section, I can give you a bit more information. Thank you.
Will do indeed. Thank you, Matthew. Jade?
Hi everyone, I'm Jade. I'm a Learning and Development Partner at Stockport Homes Group.
Thank you. And Richard?
Hi everybody, I'm Richard Mortimer. I'm the Head of Economy, Work and Skills at the Council, and we've commissioned the Post-16 Careers Week activities that Caroline's delivering for us through grassroots recruitment. And obviously our aim is to make sure that young people and parents and carers have the best information possible to make the right choices and decisions.
Great, thank you. And you may have noticed that we are one presenter down for this evening. Unfortunately, Kaylee Crompton from Pure College hasn't been able to join us. But if you've come here tonight with questions about students with an EHCP plan or special educational needs, we will address those during the course of the evening. So do please pop your questions in there. Anything that you wanted to ask Kaylee in particular, she said that she's more than happy to provide an email response. So do please feel free to pop those in the chat. So first of all tonight we're going to come on to ask a couple of questions to Lisa as a starting point, if that's okay. Obviously Trafford and Stockport College Group offer a really broad selection of vocational courses, and here tonight we've got Stockport College and the Manchester College that both offer T-levels. But what I thought would be a nice place to start, Lisa, is if you could just give us a broad outline. Lots of students, parents and carers who are on the call tonight might be struggling a little bit to decide between what course exactly to apply for. They might have a career goal in mind, they might have absolutely no idea, and they really want to know, you know, T-levels, what does that mean? How does it compare to a BTEC, and should I go down the apprenticeship route? So quite a broad question, but if you could try to tackle that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of changes over the past few years. The government have tried to look at streamlining our offer. So there would be like A-levels, T-levels, apprenticeships. We're kind of in a bit of a transition period at the moment where we've still got some of the vocational qualifications. In December, we will know a little bit more information because we've kind of paused on removal of our old quals. But there's still lots of choice, and can kind of go through the differences and help you make that decision. So with apprenticeships at the college, you can start at multiple points during the year, where study programs, they're a September start, so it's just to kind of keep that in mind. We do offer vocational level 3 quals, including BTEC, which is Pearson's, other awarding bodies like NCFE Cash and City and Guilds, for example. But the differences between the T-levels and our vocational quals, if you kind of come into look how you would choose, is T-levels are our newer qualifications. They've been designed by employers. They do have that expectation of like a substantial work placement of 45 days. And they do have end of year exams and employer set projects and assessments at the end of year 2, but it is a 2-year course that you need to kind of commit to. The difference between that and the vocational is lots of colleges offer, you know, the level 3 vocational route, and sometimes it can be a 1 year or a 2 year programme. That very much depends on the qualification of how you're assessed, but for instance, the areas that I look after, there are exams, synoptic exams in the first year, and then exams in the second year, and there is a work placement element as well. At level 3, it's more substantial for health and early years, but again, that depends upon the qualification. It might be that they do 35 hours or more placements. But with both T-levels and the vocational level 3, you can progress either to university or employment. But I suppose the important thing is kind of entry requirements. So they do have this, for us, they do have the same entry requirements. It's just that with some of the T-levels, for instance, in health, you need to make sure that you've got maths, English and science, whereas some T-levels, it's maths and English. And that's like 4 grade, GCSE grades 4+, but some colleges do slightly alter their entry requirements. It's important to kind of look at that. Progression to level 3, you'll be starting earlier at level 1 and 2. You know, it can restrict progression onto a vocational or a T level. So if you don't get a 4 in your maths and English, it might be that you need to look at an alternative at level 3, which may be an apprenticeship route where you study functional skills rather than a GCSE offer. At the moment, not all subject areas have a T level, so it's super important to have a look at the website to look at the different types of T levels that we offer. But they vary, you know, health, early years, management, administration, engineering, digital, accounting, craft and design. So there's lots and lots to choose from, and there is still at the moment the vocational offer. There is that work placement side of things, so we will help and support with, you know, sourcing placements, but it's also good for you guys to kind of look to see where it is what you would want to go, but that kind of enriches that study programme offer. So that's it from me.
Okay, all right. So just to recap on that so that I understand and that people on the call tonight understand, those levels are a little bit confusing to start off with, aren't they? So level 1 is entry level qualification. Level 2 is equivalent to a GCSE qualification. And then level 3 is the same as either an A level or a T level or a level 3 BTEC or a level 3 NVQ. So that's kind of the way to look at it, really, isn't it? And level 4 then takes us on to kind of foundation degree equivalent. So there's lots of different level 3 qualifications that are all worth the same. A level 3 apprenticeship, a level 3 BTEC or NVQ, a T level and an A level. But that differentiation factor is both in terms of how they're delivered. So obviously, for example, an A level is purely classroom based, where a T level is 80% in the classroom and 20% doing that work placement. So a 45-day industry placement across the 2 years. And an apprenticeship is the flip side of a T level. So it's 80% on the job and only 20% in the classroom. What I was going to say is, aside from the entry requirement, so obviously if you get 4s and 5s in your GCSEs, so kind of old money, that's C's, isn't it? Yeah. So if you get 4s and 5s in your GCSEs, you have obviously a lot more options open up to you. If you get lower than that, you might need to look at resits or functional skills. You were talking about there. But aside from their entry requirements, how else can people make a decision about whether a T level or an apprenticeship or a BTEC is the right route for them?
So at the moment, it's kind of important to, first of all, pick the subject area that you want to go into, because for some areas, it might be that they only offer a T level or they only offer a vocational qual. So it kind of is a little bit easier to kind of come in at that level. At the moment, for instance, in health, I offer an NCFE cash, and I also offer a T level. With certain T levels, they're streamlined to like a specialism. So, for instance, I offer adult nursing. So those learners would go onto a T level in adult nursing. If you wanted to do something else within health and social care, kind of industry, you would go on to the NCFE cash level 3. So it's very much, you know, having an interview, talking to the subject areas, they will help and guide you is into what it is. I think at the moment it's important to come in at what level am I expected to kind of start at. If you're going to get the GCSEs to come in at a level 3, then you've got those options. Whereas maybe, you know, if you're going to be coming in with, so say for instance in like beauty therapy, the highest level you can start at is level 2. So there's some very specific things to some subject areas. So for me, for health and early years, you can come in at level 3, but you've got to have those entry requirements. So I think don't get stressed about whether it's a vocational or a T level. I think come in with that understanding that, yeah, I want to go into that industry because I want to do that particular role, that job, that career, and then we can kind of better advise you as to what subject areas are running T levels or vocational quals. But equally both, you know, I think, for instance, with a T level, you're guaranteed to have more work experience, which is a great kind of starting point to making you feel confident when you're transitioning from college into work life.
Sure. So what would you recommend that students do then who are thinking of applying to Stockport College? Is it to submit an application, obviously to search online on your website for the different types of courses within that area that they may want to do and to check those entry requirements? But is it the case that they will need to put down a specific course on their application form, or can they keep that open and then speak to you about that later?
So you can put down your first kind of choice, and it's fine to make a note on there of if there's any other courses that you want to be interviewed for, because you can have multiple interviews for multiple areas, because you know there are lots of students who come to us and are not really sure exactly what it is that they want to do. They might have an interest, but it's kind of having those career talks. Is it a future career that they can see themselves going into? Because it might be something that they enjoy at school, a subject, but when you then speak to specialists at college, it might be that they talk to you about, you know, the career options, the industries that you can get into, and that further then helps you make that decision. But you know, definitely come along to the open events. You know, apply to college. We'll do that interview, and you can have multiple interviews with different subject areas.
Okay, and then make that decision when you get the grades to see what options are opened up to. Okay, that's great advice. Robbie, I'm going to come to you now, if that's okay, to tell us a little bit about things from a Manchester College perspective. So first of all, could you just give us a run through of the different vocational courses that you guys offer over there?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of our vocational courses, we have from level 1 all the way up to level 3. We have 20 different subject areas, so a massive wide range, you know, amount of courses. So we've got things like performing arts, business, hospitality and catering, childcare, health and social care, sports, public services, just to name a few. We have 4 campuses across Greater Manchester as well. So each campus will specialise in different courses. So our newest campus, City Centre campus, which is just opposite the AO Arena near Victoria Station, they specialise in all the creatives. So things like performing arts, visual arts, business, that kind of thing. So that just kind of sums up our vocational courses. We do also offer the T-level route as well. So obviously what Lisa was saying about T-levels, so we offer those. Also we have, so at the minute, because T-levels were only created 3 to 4 years ago, they aren't offered in every single subject area. So at the minute at the Manchester College, we have T-levels on offer in about 9 different subject areas. So things like construction, animal care, automotive, that kind of thing. But obviously, as each year goes on, more and more T-levels are being created. And with our T-levels, we offer that obviously as the level 3, the main T-level qualification, because that's what it is, a level 3. But we also have it as a level 2 transition programme. So what that basically means is, if you don't get the grades to start off on the level 3, you know, official T-level qualification, you can start off on the level 2 programme. obviously resit the maths or English, whichever one, you know, you might have not passed,
Yeah.
get that level 2 qualification, and then progress on to the actual T-level qual, which is the level 3.
Okay, perfect. And what does that application process look like at the Manchester College?
So at the Manchester College specifically, we only do online applications. So obviously with other colleges, they might do physical forms that you need to actually, you know, sign a paper form, go into the college that might look like and get that form. But with us, it's just online. So we have an application portal. So what that means is you would create an account, complete the application online. So you need to input things like your predicted grades, personal statement. You might need to put in a reference. So I think a lot of students kind of panic when they hear the word reference, because you know they might have not had any work experience yet, and or things like that, you know, someone to put down as a reference. But what we always recommend is, you know, ask a teacher if you can use a teacher as a reference, because I'm sure they'd be more than happy to, you know, if they wanted to be contacted, that would be fine. So yeah, that's kind of what our application process is like. And then once you've applied, you should hopefully hear back within a few weeks of applying. And then you'd log on, get an email, log on to your portal, see the conditional offer. So a conditional offer basically means it's all dependent on the GCSE grades that they get. So let's say, you know, a student's applied for a level 3 course, but they don't pass their maths or English. They would automatically be put onto the level 2 course if we have that course on offer as a level 2. If we don't, what I'd say is just apply for a backup option if you're not really sure if you're going to get the grades for a level 3 or not. So then once you've been offered that conditional offer, you'd then book in for an interview. Again, interview, quite a scary word for some students, but it's mostly just a chat with the tutors. So you would book an appointment, come onto campus for like a 15-20 minute chat, just so the tutor can get to know the student. And then after that, they'd have to log back onto the portal, accept that. And then obviously you just wait for your GCSE results. But what we say is make sure you apply as soon as possible, because we do have a soft deadline, which is the end of February. So obviously if you want to secure your place, then I'd say try and apply as soon as possible.
Yeah, really great advice there. So just to recap, you can apply for as many courses as you like. We don't want hundreds. Try and focus on the ones that you really want to do. But if you're not sure whether you want a level 3 or a level 2, or slight differences between that BTEC and T-level or MVQ offer, you can apply for more than one course. You can apply to more than one college. Most of the deadlines are early January, February time. We always recommend that you try and get that application in before Christmas if you can, because you need to start focusing on your mocks and your exams. So it's really good to have that out of the way as soon as possible. Once the college has processed your application, which can take a couple of weeks, you'll get an email response back with a conditional offer. And at that point, you'll be invited in to attend an interview, during which you can discuss what's on your application form and what courses are available. And it may be the case, am I right, Lisa, that during that interview, you'll discuss some of those other options with them then, but they've got various different points at which they can change their mind if they decide to.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's just important to obviously with the applications and the course that you want to do, it's important to try and make up your mind as soon as possible, because what you want to do is get that conditional offer for the course that you want to go on to, because there's obviously lots of students now, all competing for those same courses. So it's super important to make sure you've definitely got that application in, you've had that interview, you've got that conditional offer, definitely.
Perfect, great stuff. Now we've had quite a few questions coming on the chat. I'm going to address some of those now and come back to some of those in a little bit, but I just wanted to bring your attention to a couple of the T-level questions, if that's okay. So there's one from Mohammed here who wants to know a little bit more about university recognition of T-levels, if that's okay, Robbie. So obviously as a level 3 qualification, just like BTECs and apprenticeships and NVQs, they equate to UCAS points, don't they? But obviously T-levels are a new qualification. So do we have any kind of stats or information that we can provide to students and parents about how universities view T-levels and how that's received to get on different courses?
Yeah, so T levels are viewed the exact same as A levels when it comes to going to university. So because T levels are equivalent to 3 A levels, like you were just saying, it's all about the UCAS points. So let's say, for example, there's someone who's doing A levels that gets 3 C's, and then there's someone who's doing a T level who gets a distinction or a distinction star. A distinction star is equivalent to an A/A star, which means you will be coming out with more UCAS points. Therefore, you will be viewed at university as you've got A's or A stars compared to the person who's done A levels, which, you know, they might have only got C's. So if you're comparing those two, technically speaking, you would have the better chance of getting into university in that sense. So that's kind of how they're viewed. What I'd say is that the only couple of kind of career paths where you probably do have to do A levels rather than the other options is if you want to go to university, that is things like medicine or dentistry, because of how academic and how long it takes to, you know, become a qualified doctor or dentist. It's years and years of studying at university, so you do have to do the A level route. But apart from that, you can do T levels and it is viewed the exact same going to university as someone who's done A levels. And you know, it's not even just university. Let's say you want to get a degree apprenticeship or you want to go into full-time employment. Again, T levels are viewed the same as all of the other routes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to say if you've got a particular university course that you've got your heart set on, it's best to go on the UCAS website before you choose that next step and just double check the entry requirements. But yeah, otherwise they're all worth exactly the same. All level 3 qualifications convert into UCAS points. So thanks for that. Just a quick final one for you, Robbie, before we come on to apprenticeships. And we will, as I say, come back to you all of the questions that we've not answered yet in a moment. So somebody said, is moving from a level 2 onto a T level then 3 years in total, or is the second year a bridge that converts the level 2 into a T level and then it's still only 2 years? How does that work?
So different colleges will be different. So the transition program is 1 year, but because the transition program isn't actually part of the T level qualification, that T level qual is 2 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. Right, we're going to bench T levels for a little moment and just focus on the apprenticeship route for a second. So I want to come to you, Matthew, if that's okay. Can you just give us a quick summary of how apprenticeships are different and what their main advantages are? And then we'll come on to the specifics of how to apply, if that's okay.
Yeah, so an apprenticeship it's a full-time job. So you're being employed by an actual organization, you're being paid to do a job of work, you're working regular sort of hours, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 p.m., for example. You're learning from the team of people that you're employed with. So you're gaining that hands-on experience of actually doing that job on a day-to-day basis. Generally speaking, the job that you're doing as the apprenticeship is what the qualification relates to. So whilst you're working with the employer, you would then be undertaking the actual qualification. So for example, say something like accounts, you're going to be working in accountancy or a finance type company. Whilst you're working there, you're also doing the qualification, and that's where we step in. So we're the training provider that deliver that accounts qualification. You come to us, we're based in Manchester City Centre, so you would come to us, say 1 day each week and do an actual classroom lesson in the accounts sector. If, for example, you were doing, say, like a marketing apprenticeship or maybe a business administration or customer service, something like that, again, you're working with the employer on a day-to-day basis. The actual training that you do with us, we do that through a more of an online type process. So you don't physically leave the employer. You would have, say, maybe 1 afternoon, 1 day each week, where that's your allotted time to do your qualification work. So you might sort of step away from the day job, go to a separate office or room, and you would work on your qualification work. We obviously do like things like construction, mechanics, those sort of, you know, hands-on apprenticeships as well. We have a very large training centre based in Trafford, where again, someone say was working in a garage. They're working there sort of, you know, 4 days out of each week. The 5th day, they come to our training location to do the actual automotive qualification work. An apprenticeship's sort of a little bit more flexible. It's not as rigid as sort of applying to college. Do you want me to go into that bit at this moment in time?
Yeah,
Or
please.
yeah,
We'd like
right,
to know
okay,
more about that application process, because
okay,
I think that that's quite concerning for
yeah,
parents, because college obviously has a fixed start date. So you can think to yourself, I've got my place. I know that I'm going to start in September next year. Whereas sometimes that apprenticeship route can feel a little bit worrying about, do we apply via the
yeah.
college? Do we go to employers directly? Where should we start with that?
So there's sort of two ways I would almost view that. With when I'm talking to a candidate or someone that say coming to me, or I meet them at an event or something. Obviously, it depends on how old someone may be and what they're currently doing. If say someone was, currently in year 11, they're going to be finishing high school sort of next summer. Possibly the school that they go to might not have a fixed sixth form. They're a bit like, well, I'm not sure what to do for the best. I am quite interested in an apprenticeship, but maybe a college option would be suitable as well. I would generally always advise people to maybe still go down the college route, in the sense that, find out what's on offer, find out what's available from like Manchester College or Stockport College, for example. Almost have something sort of in place with those as well. Because what the problem with an apprenticeship is you're at the mercy of what vacancies are available at that moment in time. Now, most employers don't necessarily sort of take people on just at a specific point in time. Yes, there may be some employers that will know that there will be people that are coming towards the end of school next summer, or they may be coming towards the end of college. So, they may have their vacancies that they're bringing forward at that moment in time. But generally speaking, from our point of view, we deliver apprenticeship qualifications all year round, and we'll have employers that come to us to say, I want to take somebody on as an apprentice next week, for example, and we're actively helping them to try and find that candidate. And if that candidate then works with that employer, we deliver the qualification. So it's quite flexible in that point of view. So you can start an apprenticeship today, next week, next month, next year, whatever. Obviously, again, from you guys, if you're coming towards the end of school next year, you're going to be at the mercy of what's available at that moment in time. So, for example, you could look at what's on offer at this moment in time. So you can go directly to our website. That will show you what vacancies we currently have. A good site to go to across the board is the government website, gov.uk. You go to the apprenticeship section. Within there, that would then show you all the apprenticeships that are available at this moment in time. Each employer will be affiliated to a training provider. So, for example, if an employer wants to use us, the growth company, then that means that's a vacancy that I'm sort of looking after and I'm representing. But there are a variety of training providers that also do the same thing that we do. So on the government website, that would sort of show you all the different sort of vacancies. And so in a way, it would be maybe still useful to have a look at those sort of websites just to get a bit of an idea. Oh, what is on offer? What sort of things can you do? You can do an apprenticeship in pretty much anything. Again, different providers specialize in certain types of sectors. Some do a variety of things. So again, from our point of view, we do, like I said, business administration, customer service, childcare, construction, plumbing, bricklaying, mechanics, accountancy, marketing. So, there's a whole raft of things that we do. We don't necessarily do anything beauty, so that might be somebody else that you need to go to, hairdressing, etc. But there's a big variety of things that you can do as an apprenticeship. Again, you are at the mercy of the employers and what they may be looking for. Some employer might be actively looking for somebody that's a little bit older, so might be wanting somebody that has gone to college first and done a level 2 or a level 3, and then they're looking at an apprenticeship. You can do an apprenticeship from finishing high school, but again, it depends what may be available at that moment in time.
Okay, so some really good advice there. Essentially, an apprenticeship is like applying for a job. It is a job, which means that they're advertised all year round and not just to start in September. Somebody's posted in the chat about finding apprenticeships and whether they're all posted on the government website. So apprenticeships.gov.uk is a really good place to start when you're looking for an apprenticeship. Partly because if you want to know what apprenticeship courses are available, it's got all of the different apprenticeship qualifications on there. You can then enter your postcode, which allows you then to search for both training providers that might have those vacancies locally and employers that are recruiting those directly. So somebody in the chat has posted, for example, about a dental nurse apprenticeship. If you go on apprenticeships.gov.uk at the moment and you put in health and care as your sector that you're looking for, and you put in a Stockport postcode, there are a couple of dental nurse apprenticeships advertised on there at the moment, and it will tell you what their entry requirements are and how to apply. So the recommendation probably is to go on that apprenticeships.gov.uk website and have a look at that. There's also a website called Get My First Job, which has apprenticeship vacancies on there as well that you can register for. But you may also want to sign up to the different training providers who recruit those apprenticeships on behalf of the employers directly. So, for example, the Growth Company or Trafford and Stockport College Group, you can also sign up and view their apprenticeship opportunities on their website. But as Matthew said, it might be a good idea for you to apply for a college course as well, so that you've got something in your bag in case one of those apprenticeship opportunities doesn't come around that you're looking for, so that you know that you've definitely got something starting in September next year. Am I right, Matthew? And then obviously you can keep applying at the same time, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Great stuff. So I just want to come on to Jade for a second. So Jane's joined us tonight from Stockport Homes Group, who are essentially Stockport's biggest landlord, aren't they? So, and you also have a massive construction arm that deals with a lot of developments across the Greater Manchester area and lots of other strings to the Stockport Homes Group as well. But we've invited Jade along this evening, partly because Stockport Homes offer apprenticeship programmes. So we wanted to hear a little bit more about that from an employer perspective. But am I also right in thinking, Jade, that you're an apprentice yourself?
I am, yes. So I have worked for Stockport Homes Group for about 10.5 years, but I changed roles about 18 months ago. And as part of that, I was put onto a developmental apprenticeship. So I support from a learning and development perspective, the onboarding and recruitment of new apprentices, whilst also doing an apprenticeship myself. So I see it from both sides.
Well,
and we do work with the Growth Company as well. So
great, that's some really good experience to be able to share tonight then, isn't it? So for yourself, what level of apprenticeship are you doing?
So I'm doing a level 5 in human resources and learning and development.
Okay, so that's a great point, isn't it? That the apprenticeship programs can start at kind of level 2, level 3, but also go all the way up to a level 7 qualification equivalent to a master's degree. And you're doing your level 5, which is kind of that midpoint degree level, isn't it? Which is great. So tell us a little bit now, if you can, about the apprenticeships that Stockport Homes offer and how someone might go about applying for those with yourselves.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, Caroline, we do have quite a few strings to our bow. So we've got 4 different companies in our group. We've got our social housing arm, which is Stockport Homes Limited. We've got 360, which is construction and repairs. We've got Skylight, which is our charitable and third sector. And we also have Viaduct, which is property development, construction and home sales. So within sort of those 4 different companies, we've got a lot of different skills that we need, a lot of different job roles. So at the moment, we do have about 26 apprenticeships happening. We've just recruited for 2 new ICT apprentices, and we've got interviews taking place at the moment for another 2 housing practitioners. But ICT, housing practitioners, human resources, accountancy and taxation. We've got digital and technology solutions specialist, data protection, procurement, data analysts, and then we go into sort of our the other skills like gas engineering, electricians, plumbers, roofers. So we're constantly taking on new apprentices and putting people on developmental apprenticeships as well. So if you join us not as an apprentice, we can put people onto apprentices later on in their employment as well to build those skills. And that's level 2 right up to level 7. So we have got people studying like the level 7 in accountancy and taxation.
That's fantastic that you can offer so many apprenticeships there and some really great opportunities for young people and people of all ages within the borough. How do people apply? How do they find out about the apprenticeships that you offer?
Yeah, so we post them all on our vacancies page. We post a lot onto LinkedIn and social media as well, so you can apply through there. The different teams will have different recruitment strategies. So we always start with an application form, and we do have support internally. We have an employment support team that can help with application forms, and they can help with CVs and interview skills as well. So if you do need that support, you can drop into our office, and we've got colleagues that can help with that. And then it might be an interview, it might be an assessment centre, it might be some kind of test. Each team will sort of assess differently. And at the minute, we do advertise on sort of an ad hoc basis. So when a vacancy becomes available, or when we're expanding or growing teams, but we are looking next year or possibly the year after to sort of recruit in cohorts and forward plan and bring people on around, you know, start advertising at the end of the school year and timing it for a group enrolment, not necessarily for the same qualification, but so that there's that peer support as well.
Sorry, I was typing in the chat, so I didn't want you to hear my keyboard at the same time. What would your top tips be for somebody who is wanting to apply for an apprenticeship with Stockport? As somebody who kind of has that foresight on the application process as well, how can they really impress, particularly when school leavers are coming up against experienced candidates and might not have as much on the CV to make them stand out?
I think honesty is really key. So really sell yourself. Tell us where your skills are, where your strengths are. Research in the organisation. So Stockport Homes is very big on our values and our mission. And if you can research and weave those values into the answers that you give as part of the recruitment process, that is really, really important. Get support with it as well, because application forms, you know, aren't the nicest thing to complete for the majority of people. So get, you know, parents, carers, guardians to help you. Get support from school, colleges, or like I say, we do have an employment support team that can help with creating a CV, help with interview skills, and we do offer a lot of different sort of courses that are one-off as well that might help building confidence, building networks. We do also offer sort of work placements and volunteering as well. So if you wanted to come and sort of do an afternoon or a couple of hours to see what actually happens in housing, you know, we can look at setting that up too.
That's absolutely brilliant, and that's really important to point out. So Stockport Homes have their own employment support team called Skylight. You can go on the Stockport Homes website and find out about it, but they do have lots of free courses that young people are eligible to attend, things like Intro to Housing and Confidence Building Skills. And they also have a kind of a CV workshop facility. And I know firsthand from lots of people who've had a work placement with Stockport Homes have gone on to join their business at some point in the future. So it's really good to look out for those opportunities. Richard, I just wanted to come to you if I can, because we've had a question in the chat. And obviously the council themselves is a really big employer of apprenticeships, aren't they? So the question that's come in that I hope you can tackle is, how do we kind of reconcile that potential lack of apprenticeships, that, you know, there's greater demand for apprenticeships than there is availability, and also the fact from kind of a legal requirement for young people to be in full-time education until 18, if they're reliant on getting that apprenticeship route, what happens if they don't find one straight away?
Yeah, tricky questions, really. So I think for the council, obviously, we're driven by some imperatives which are to do with the way the funding works. So large employers have to pay something called the apprenticeship levy. And basically, it's in our interest as large employers to make use of that to recruit apprentices, to then train them and have them in the workforce. For me, I think for the council's point of view, you know, we have a diverse and quite a wide-ranging set of roles and jobs where we've got apprentices. So we've got apprentices across our business, everything from our kind of what used to be the public services team, so people working in parks and doing public realm work in parks and public spaces, through to obviously waste handling operatives and those sorts of people, then right the way through to sort of people based in office roles. And that could be anything from children's or adult social care through to planning department, and our development and regeneration teams that are doing a lot of the building projects that you'll see around the town and in the districts, etc. So, we can provide a certain number of apprenticeships and a range of job roles, but that doesn't necessarily always cover everybody's interest. So, for example, if we've got young people who want to do an apprenticeship in animal care, I know through the supported apprenticeship scheme that we do, that's one that we've struggled with to try and find, particularly if people would like to work with horses, for example, trying to find a supply of apprenticeships in that sort of area with those specific interests is really, really challenging. As a council, we try and encourage employers and recruit more employers to get involved. So smaller businesses that don't pay the levy can still access apprenticeships and recruit people and have them on apprenticeship programs, and that's funded through the government scheme. But again, I think that the issue with smaller employers sometimes is they think the bureaucracy associated with doing the apprenticeship is really onerous. So, the kind of visits and the liaison with apprenticeship training providers, they aren't really sure they can cope with supporting because of how busy they are in their work. But the other thing I'd have to say is some of them get a bit nervous about the prospect of the 20% off the job training. And I think a lot of providers are very good at trying to support employees to understand that that doesn't mean this person is out of your workplace necessarily for a day a week. What it might mean is, they're doing some training or they're at a meeting or they're doing some developmental kind of aspects which support their understanding and development of skills. So we're trying to educate and encourage those employers who don't offer apprenticeships about those sorts of issues and try and get them to come forward and get involved in offering apprenticeships to their workforce. But it is challenging, I have to say. The other thing I would say, without wishing to be overly gloomy, is doing an apprenticeship doesn't magically create a job role if there isn't one in the business. The ideal is that there's a naturally occurring job role in the business, and that should be paired with an apprenticeship opportunity for people to train and get the qualification if at all possible. So having said that, we're doing our best. We're working with employers, we're trying to support them and encourage them to understand and develop and grow the number of apprenticeships that we've got in Stockport. And I think that is getting better, but still work to do, I would say. And if anybody's got any brilliant ideas, by all means send them to me, because it would be helpful.
Yeah, so we're doing all we can to push that apprenticeship agenda, which is really, really important. I think the other thing to say is a lot of larger organisations do tend to launch their apprenticeship scheme with school leavers in mind to give them the priority in applications. So a lot come out during National Apprenticeship Week, which is usually the second week in February each year. So we do tend to promote them more actively during that time, particularly the council vacancies. And Stockport Homes usually release a raft of vacancies there as well. Richard, whilst we've got you, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about supported apprenticeships. You mentioned those, and obviously we don't have Pure on the call tonight. So can you just explain to people a little bit about what that supported apprenticeship programme looks like, and also any other options that might be available for students with an EHCP or SEND needs?
Yeah, sure. So the council funds a scheme that's called a supported apprenticeship scheme. The support that's referred to is actually the wage payments that the council has a budget for, and that we employ the individuals basically and then place them with a host employer depending on what their sort of interests are around particular sectors. So for example, I think at the moment we have about 14 places available on that scheme for young people who are either care experienced or have an EHCP or are young carers. They can access that scheme, so the council employs them, but they go to a host employer. So we've supported young people who've gone to garages to do motor vehicle qualifications. And again, we've had some experience of trying to support people who would like to do animal care. So from the employer's point of view, the good thing is it's not a wage cost that they have to bear, but they get the individual into their workforce, and the individual gets a chance to achieve a qualification. So the supported apprenticeships are also have a little bit more kind of flexibility around some of the entry requirements and the demands. So they can be at level 1, for example. But again, the requirement is still there for people to try and complete and achieve maths and English components if they haven't already got those at level 4 or above. So the scheme tends to be accessed by referral from sort of frontline workers basically that are working with the young people and who know them. In an ideal world for young people with EHCPs, would be tracking them from sort of year 9 transition planning, where we'd start to see that they've got an interest in a particular sector and think that actually their natural pathway might be into a supported apprentice place in due course. That's the ideal, doesn't necessarily always happen, but you know, that would be good and helpful. So for parents and carers, you know, if you're interested in that option, start the discussions as soon as you can would be my advice. And then in terms of just some wider offers, so Pure College are doing supported internships for young people with additional needs. And they've got some really fantastic opportunities for young people to go into workplace settings and to gain experience of being in a workplace and to test out, you know, am I actually interested in this thing in terms of the day-to-day work rather than what I think this job role could be about. So that's a really good offer from Pure. And again, I think outside of that, there's possibly some kind of pathways through colleges, which they would need to speak about, to be honest, in terms of kind of pre-employment type models and work that they can do with young people to help them to become more work ready and to maybe do some voluntary work or some placements that give them a better opportunity to compete for job roles that come up in the workplaces with employers.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm just going to try finally to address some of these questions that have popped up in the chat whilst we're speaking tonight so that everybody gets their points answered. Kath has asked, and I'm going to come to you on this, Lisa. My daughter's hoping to do hair and media makeup. If places are limited, what happens if a course is oversubscribed?
So we always do our best to kind of, you know, have as many groups as we possibly can. But it is a very, very popular, you know, subject and course. So I would always say, do your very best with your exams. There are, you know, in that area, there are, you know, they've got level 1, they've got level 2. Usually, like I say, you would start, the highest you start in hair and beauty courses would be like level 2. Just get in there early with your application. You know, talk through with them at interview all that you're interested in, really kind of showcase that, you know, that you know, it's an area that you want to go into, it's a career that you want to do. And, you know, we will always try our very best to get kind of a place. We do have some learners who maybe start on a different course for a year, you know, to get them into college. It might be that they need to work on the maths and English to get to a particular level, and then there's progression across the areas as well. But yeah, I do understand, you know, as a mum, you know, you want to kind of secure that place for your child. So I would just say get in there early. You know, the applications are open and just apply. We do offer that course over a couple of campuses as well. So
great, and apprenticeships are available in the hair and beauty route as well, so keep your eye open for them as well. I'm going to ask this next one to you, if that's okay, Robbie. Where has it gone now? It was something along the lines of who arranges the T-level work placement. So are students responsible for finding that themselves, or is it the college that seeks that out for them?
So with the Manchester College, we would help you find that placement. So at the Manchester College, we have an employability team, so a massive team on hand. I think there's about 10 staff members on that team, each one specialising in different areas with the T-levels, so they would help you find that. We do also work with over 1,000 employers at the Manchester College, so a massive variety of employers. So I'll just give you an example. So with business, we work with employers like Lloyds Bank, we work with the NHS for health and social care, the MRI, we work with Wilmot Dixon for construction, and Wilmot Dixon built our newest campus. So we work with loads and loads of, you know, massive multinational companies to make sure you're getting the best possible work placement.
Okay, so T-levels, that other great route then, isn't it? If you want to get that workplace experience opportunity and you have the grades to study a T-level, in many ways they are more readily available than apprenticeships because they come with that employer sponsorship all tied into it, don't they? So you can only sign up for a T-level if they've got that employer route running alongside them. And I know that that's exactly the same at Stockport College as well. Somebody else has asked about the availability of T-levels. So obviously you mentioned that there's more subjects of T-levels being added all the time, but at the moment it's a little bit limited. Why is that? Is that because of the availability of employers?
So in terms of why it's limited, it's just because they are such a new qualification that obviously employers aren't offering, you know, the work placement opportunity yet. That's all it is. But as I said, because they're so new, each year more and more are becoming available in different areas as well. So obviously, because I saw one of the comments on the chat saying, you know, it's not available as much in South Manchester compared to Central. There are still a couple in South Manchester. It would obviously just depend on what subject you're doing. So, for example, animal care and management is based at our Wythenshawe campus, and we do have a T-level in that. Whereas obviously some other courses like business, health and social care, automotive construction, they are more central. But yeah, hopefully as the years go on, more and more will be, you know, becoming available.
Great. So it'll be scaled up over time. It's just because they were only launched in 2020. So we're only just now starting to see our first raft of T-level students coming through, aren't we? So that's great. Lisa, just a quick one for you. Somebody's put quite specifically, will Trafford College Group be acknowledging applications that have been submitted? The website suggests an acknowledgement will be given after 1 day, but they've not had a response yet. Does that mean that their application has failed, or is there just a bit of a backlog at the moment? Do you know?
I think this is a super busy time because we've just had our open event as well, so there's probably a lot of applications coming through. All I would say is maybe in another week, if you want to ring the college number and just say that you put an application in, but you've not had notification, because somebody get back in contact with you, just so that you've acknowledged that it is there and there's no issues. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody's just sent a message through to say, would you be able to do both an apprenticeship or a T-level or not? I'm going to ask you that, Matthew. I'm presuming that the answer is no, but if you could just clarify, that would be great.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able. It's to do with like the funding, so you're affiliated to one thing or the other. So yeah, you wouldn't be able to do both at the same time.
No, and I don't think you'd be able to cope with that either, because remember, an apprenticeship is a full-time job, so trying to do a T-level at the same time wouldn't work. So they're both different types of qualifications. Choose one or the other, but it could be that you apply for both options depending on the grades that you're predicted, couldn't it? Okay, fantastic, great stuff. We're almost coming to the end now. I think we've answered most of the questions. If I've not answered yours specifically, it's because we've probably covered it at some point across the evening. There is a question in there about University of Manchester. We're not going to get onto kind of university requirements tonight. We do have another event happening tomorrow evening, which is about next steps. So it's about what happens at 18 plus. So if your decisions after GCSEs might hinge on what happens after that, it might be a great event for you to come along to. We're going to be joined by the University of Manchester to talk about their entry requirements, funding, grants, application processes, and everything that you might want to know about their courses. We're also going to be joined by Manchester Metropolitan University, who will be talking not just about their degree courses, but also about HNCs, HNDs, and their degree apprenticeship programme. We're going to be joined by an actual real-life degree apprentice from Stockport College, who has studied both at a level 4 and is currently on a level 5 apprenticeship programme, to talk a bit more about their experience of starting uni, it not quite working out, and then doing a degree apprenticeship programme. And we're also going to be joined by somebody from the Trafford and Stockport College group again to talk about their university centre, the HNC and HND route that that they offer, but also all of the other range of what else you can do at 18 plus. So there's a whole host of fully funded, i.e. free courses that are available to young people up until the age of 25. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those courses might look like. Some of them again are linked to employers, so have a route into a job at the end of it, pre-employment courses. Others of them are kind of 6-week courses where you develop different skills ready for the workplace, etc. So we're going to be looking at all of those routes, as well as chatting a little bit about things like starting your own business and the interview support, the options that are available if you want to go straight into employment. So that just leaves me to say a very big thank you to each of tonight's panellists for giving up their evening tonight to answer your questions. If anybody's got any final questions that have come through that we've not tackled, I will send those across to our presenters and try to provide a written response so that we can get back to you. That will be published on the Stockport Jobs Match website within the next 7 days, and I will also send an email out to everyone who's booked via Eventbrite with the link to that page, so that you don't have to go searching around for it. I hope you found tonight useful to provide a little bit of clarity upon those vocational pathways, and specifically the T-level apprenticeship BTEC NVQ vocational route. Please do come back tomorrow night if you feel that event would be useful to you, or take a look on the Stockport Jobs Match website for some more resources to help you start conversations and spark ideas about those next steps at home. So thank you, Robbie, thank you, Lisa, thank you, Jade, Richard and Matthew, and have a lovely rest of the evening. Thanks for everyone for watching.